What are the odds of this actually happening? Imagine a French doctor tending to victims of the plague. Picture a blind Bulgarian peasant woman seeing visions beyond her sight. Think of an American photographer who spoke prophecies in his sleep, a Yorkshire woman branded a witch, and an Irish monk meticulously counting popes. 5 individuals from 5 different nations across 5 different centuries. They never met, never read each other's words, and likely died believing they were alone in their experiences. Yet, they all saw the same thing. When their visions are placed side by side, and we strip away the metaphors specific to their eras and languages, reducing their prophecies to their core elements, they all converge on a single point. The same place, the same moment. Us, now. Welcome. Close your windows, dim the lights. Tonight, we embark on an unprecedented experiment. We're bringing 5 prophets together into the same metaphorical room, allowing voices separated by 1,000 years of history to speak in unison. One prophet's prediction might be dismissed as mere imagination. 2 prophets agreeing could be seen as coincidence. But when 5 prophets from 5 different ages and corners of the world independently describe the same events for the same years, it transcends coincidence. It becomes a warning. Let's begin with the one you likely already know, Nostradamus, the plague doctor, the man who gazed into the future and saw only fire. If you've explored these ideas before, you're familiar with the details. But let me remind you of what truly matters. This man walked among the dead, lived through the horrors of the Great Plague, and witnessed entire cities transformed into graveyards. It was in that dance with death that he began to perceive things, events yet to unfold. Specifically, for the period we are living through now, 2025 and 2026, Nostradamus outlines 5 distinct events, 5 seals breaking in rapid succession. First, the Crimson Wind, a plague spreading through the air, transmitted not by touch, but simply by breathing. Silent cities, sealed windows, the taste of iron in the mouth without a wound. Second, the Iron Sea, machines lurking in the ocean's depths, eyes glowing lifelessly in the abyss. A war waged where the enemy remains unseen, undeclared, and ships simply vanish. Third, the man with the honeyed smile, the third Antichrist, but one who doesn't arrive in military uniform. He comes with promises of peace, with seductive words. Nostradamus called him the seducer. He foretold that we would willingly hand him the keys to the kingdom, eagerly kissing the chains he places upon us. Fourth, the scorched earth, a temperature of 48 degrees Celsius, the sun becoming an enemy, rivers boiling, fish cooking in their own habitat, a thirst that turns neighbors into strangers. And fifth, the fire from heaven, a second light appearing in the sky, a tear of plasma falling at 25,000 kilometers per hour, the heavens tearing open. The final sunrise. 5 events, 1 year, 1 civilization facing its reckoning. But here's the crucial point. Nostradamus wasn't alone in his visions. Approximately 4,000 kilometers from France, 400 years later, a blind woman in the Bulgarian mountains had visions almost identical to his. Her name was Vanilla, but the world knows her as Baba Vanga. And what she saw will chill you to the bone. Baba Vanga, the blind woman who claimed to see tomorrow. Vangelia Pandiva Gushtarova was born in 1911 in Macedonia. At the age of 12, a sandstorm left her completely blind. However, she asserted that it was on that very day that she truly began to see. She would gaze at people with her empty eyes and describe their past, present, and future with uncanny accuracy. Initially, only villagers sought her counsel. Later, people from all over Bulgaria, and eventually world leaders, politicians, and generals, came to her. During the Cold War, both the KGB and the CIA kept files on her. The Bulgarian government even considered her a strategic asset. Imagine that, a blind grandmother living in a mountain cottage being monitored by both superpowers. Why? because her predictions consistently came true. She accurately predicted Stalin's death, the Chernobyl disaster, the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the sinking of the Kursk submarine, and the September 11th attacks years before they occurred. She specifically said, "The American brothers will fall after being struck by iron birds." Baba Vanga died in 1996, but before her death, she left prophecies for every year until the year 5079. Yes, you heard that right, 5079. For 2024 and 2025, she foresaw significant climatic catastrophes, earthquakes that would redraw maps, and severe economic distress in Europe. So far, that could describe any particularly bad year. But listen to what she specifically predicted for 2025. A conflict in the East that will escalate, involving weapons never used before, and the sun behaving in a strange manner. Did you catch that? Weapons never used before. Nostradamus speaks of autonomous underwater drones. Baba Vanga speaks of new weapons. Two prophets, separated by 4 centuries, independently describing the same military innovation. But there's more. For late 2025 and into 2026, Baba Vanga predicted something that has kept me awake at night. A leader will rise, appearing as a savior, uniting nations that have always been divided, but his peace will be false. Sound familiar? Nostradamus, the seducer who comes beneath the cloak of Venus. Baba Vanga, a leader who will seem like a savior, but whose peace will be false. Two separate descriptions of the same man, the same deception. She also spoke of diseases, saying that between 2025 and 2028, there would be plagues created by man, not natural occurrences, but manufactured ones. Nostradamus speaks of the crimson wind. Baba Vanga speaks of artificial plagues. War with new weapons, a false leader, manufactured plagues, climate disasters, the sun behaving strangely. Two prophets providing the same list of warnings. But we still have 3 more to consider. And the next one is perhaps the strangest of all, a man who predicted the future while he slept. The sleeping prophet. Edgar Cayce was born in Kentucky in 1877. He was a photographer, a businessman, a church-going man, completely ordinary until he discovered he possessed an extraordinary ability. Cayce could enter a trance state, similar to sleep but distinctly different. While in that state, he would answer questions about medicine, history, and the future. The truly bizarre part was that upon waking, he would remember nothing of what he had said. Over 40 years, Edgar Cayce gave more than 14,000 documented readings. He would sit, close his eyes, enter his trance, and a secretary would transcribe everything he said. Many of these readings were medical diagnoses, and doctors confirmed their accuracy, despite Cayce having no medical training whatsoever. But some readings spoke of humanity's future. Cayce died in 1945, but his prophecies still resonate because he predicted something very specific about our time. There will be a shifting of the Earth's poles. What was cold will become warm, and what was warm will become frozen. The Earth will change its physical position. A pole shift sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But listen to this. In recent years, scientists have documented that the magnetic North Pole is moving at an unprecedented speed from Canada towards Siberia, accelerating every year. Cayce saw this 80 years ago, but here is where he connects with Nostradamus and Baba Vanga. Cayce described a period of significant Earth changes that would begin in our time. He spoke of flooding in coastal zones, earthquakes that would split continents, the Mediterranean Sea connecting with the Sahara Desert, and California sinking into the sea. And, most disturbingly, he said that these changes would be preceded by signs in the sun. Nostradamus, the enemy sun, the scorched earth. Baba Vanga, the sun behaving strangely. Edgar Cayce, signs in the sun before the great changes. 3 prophets, across 3 different centuries, all focused on the sun and seeing the same ominous signs. Something is terribly wrong. Cayce also spoke of conflicts. He said that before the earth changes, there would be a war involving all nations. He didn't call it World War III, but he described it as the final conflict between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. And he said something that haunts me. Many will seek a leader to guide them through the darkness, but they must be careful. The one who promises light may be the one who brings the greatest darkness. How many times must we hear the same warning? Nostradamus, the seducer; Baba Vanga, the false savior; Edgar Cayce, the one who promises light but brings darkness. Three coincidences that are no longer coincidences, but a clear pattern. But we still have two prophets left. And the next one lived 500 years before Nostradamus, in medieval England, when saying what she said was punishable by death. Mother Shipton, the Witch of Yorkshire. Ursula Southwell was born in 1488 in a cave beside the River Nid in Yorkshire, England. Look at her face. They called her ugly, deformed. They said her mother had made a pact with the devil, that Ursula was the daughter of a demon. But Ursula had a gift, or a curse, depending on your perspective. She could see the future. She married a man named Toby Shipton, and from then on, she was known as Mother Shipton. People came from all over England to consult her. Kings sent emissaries in secret. The church watched her, waiting for an excuse to burn her at the stake, but they never did. Perhaps because her prophecies were too useful, or perhaps because they feared her powers. Her prophecies were written in verse, in Old English. Many were lost, while others were altered over time. But those that survive offer chilling insights. Carriages without horses shall go, and accidents fill the world with woe. She wrote this in the 16th century, 400 years before the invention of the automobile. Around the world, thoughts shall fly in the twinkling of an eye. The internet, instant communication, 500 years before it existed. Underwater, men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall talk. In the air, men shall be seen in white, in black, and in green. Submarines and airplanes written about when people still believed the earth was flat. But listen to what she says about the end, about our time. When pictures seem alive with movements free, when boats like fishes swim beneath the sea, when men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. And she continues, a fiery dragon shall cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and be dismayed by the 6th herald of this prophecy. A fiery dragon crossing the sky. Does that ring a bell? Nostradamus. The great star will burn for 7 days. Edgar Cayce. Earth changes preceded by signs. Mother Shipton. A fiery dragon shall cross the sky. 4 prophets now, for visions of the same cosmic event. But the most chilling aspect of Mother Shipton's prophecy is how it ends. When the dragon's tail has passed, and man has survived through these trials, those who remain shall begin anew. Few will be those who survive, but those who survive shall build the new world. She doesn't predict total annihilation, but a purge, a selection. Those who pass the trial survive, those who don't, perish. For prophets on the table now, for voices saying the same thing, something is coming, something vast, something that will change everything. But we're missing one, the oldest of them all. And his prophecies are perhaps the most disturbing because he didn't predict events, but people. He predicted popes. And according to his list, the last pope is already here. Saint Malachy, the prophecy of the popes, and the pope who shouldn't exist. Malachy of Armagh, an Irish monk from the 12th century. In the year 1139, he traveled to Rome to meet with the pope. And during that journey, he had a vision. He saw all the popes from his era to the end of the church, one by one. And for each pope, he wrote a phrase in Latin, a cryptic description that would somehow fit that specific pope. 112 phrases, 112 popes. Scholars initially dismissed it as forgery, until the predictions consistently came true. For Pope John XXII, Malachy wrote, Pastor et nata, pastor and sailor. John XEI was the patriarch of Venice, the city of sailors, before becoming pope. For John Paul I, de mediatate luni, from the half moon. John Paul I was elected on the day of the half moon and died 33 days later, before the moon completed its cycle. For John Paul II, de labor solis, from the labor of the sun. John Paul II was born during a solar eclipse and was buried during another. For Benedict XVI, Gloria Olivi, the glory of the olive. The Benedictines are called the Olivetans, and the olive is their symbol. And after Benedict, only one description remained, the last one. In persecution extrema s. R. E. sedebit Petrus Romanus, capacit os in multis tribulationibus, cabus transactus civitas septicalis deruder, et judex tremendus judicabit populum sum. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations. After these tribulations have passed, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the terrible judge will judge his people. The end. The city of 7 hills is Rome. The list ends. For years, scholars believed Francis was the last Petrus Romanus. Why? Because Jorge Mario Bergoglio chose the name Francis in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi. And Saint Francis of Assisi's father was named Pietro, Peter in Italian. And Bergoglio's parents were Italian immigrants from Rome. Peter the Roman. Francis would rule amid tribulations, scandals, empty churches, and a fractured world. And after him, the end. Then came April 21st, 2025. Pope Francis died at 88 years old, and prophecy scholars held their breath because, according to Malachy, what came next was destruction, judgment, the end. But 17 days later, 133 cardinals gathered in the Sistine Chapel and elected Robert Francis Prevost, an American from Chicago. He took the name Leo XIV, Pope number 113, the Pope who shouldn't exist. There is no description for him in Malachy's vision, no Latin phrase, no prophecy. The list ended with Francis. And yet, here he sits in Rome, leading a church that, according to a 900-year-old prophecy, should no longer have a leader. So what happened? Either Malachy was wrong, and every coincidence before was just luck, or we missed something. Look at the prophecy again. It doesn't say the last pope will die and then the world ends. It says, after these tribulations have passed, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed. After, not during, after. What if we're not beyond the prophecy? What if we're still inside it? Francis ruled in tribulation. Leo XIV rules now in a world where faith fractures and churches are empty. The tribulations haven't passed, they're ongoing. And this is where St. Malachy's countdown meets the visions of the others. Nostradamus saw the Vatican in flames, a pope fleeing barefoot through corpses, the ancient assemblies crumbling. Baba Vanga spoke of the ancient faiths crumbling, of changes that would shake the foundations of what humanity believed. Edgar Cayce warned of a battle between light and darkness within sacred institutions themselves. Mother Shipton wrote that the temples would stand empty, that saints would tremble. And Malachy gave us a number, a limit, a countdown that has now apparently exceeded itself. Unless the count was never about individual popes, unless Petrus Romanus isn't a man, but an era. The final chapter, a period of leaders, plural, shepherding a flock through darkness until the very end. Francis is gone. Leo XIV reigns. Rome still stands. But the prophecy doesn't end with the death of the last pope. It ends with destruction. And destruction hasn't come yet. What they all saw. All right, let's put it all together. Let's examine the complete pattern. Convergence 1, climate and earth. Nostradamus, the scorched earth, 48 degrees Celsius, fish cooked in water. Baba Vanga, climatic catastrophes, earthquakes that change maps. Edgar Cayce, pole shift, coastal flooding. What was cold will be warm. What was warm will be cold. Mother Shipton, the climate will change. The seasons will become confused. Saint Malachy, many tribulations during the final pontificate. 5 out of 5 speak of unprecedented natural disasters. Convergence 2. Nostradamus, the Iron Sea, submarine warfare. Drones, a silent war. Baba Vanga spoke of a conflict brewing in the East, one involving weapons unlike any seen before. Edgar Cayce foresaw a war engulfing all nations. Mother Shipton predicted half the world would be drenched in blood. Saint Malachy prophesied extreme persecution, a chilling convergence. All 5 spoke of a global conflict. 3 signs. The rise of a false leader, as foretold by Nostradamus. He is described as a man with a captivating smile, the third Antichrist, a master seducer. Baba Vanga warned of a leader who would appear as a savior, but whose peace would be a deceptive illusion. Edgar Cayce saw one who promises enlightenment, yet delivers the deepest darkness. Mother Shipton told of a prince offering much, but ultimately delivering only ashes. St. Malachy, while not directly mentioning a political leader, describes a period of intense persecution. But persecution by whom? For out of the 5 described the same figure, a charismatic leader capable of deceiving millions, appearing to be the solution while, in reality, being the core of the problem. Convergence 4, a cosmic event, as Nostradamus predicted. Fire from the heavens, a great star burning for 7 days. 2 suns appearing in the sky. Baba Vanga spoke of the sun behaving in an unusual manner. Edgar Cayce saw signs in the sun preceding great changes. Mother Shipton envisioned a fiery dragon crossing the sky 6 times. For out of the 5 described something extraordinary in the sky, something related to the sun, something falling or shining in an abnormal way. Convergence 5, a spiritual crisis. Nostradamus foresaw the collapse of faith, the abandonment of the church. Baba Vanga predicted the world's religions would undergo a profound transformation, with ancient faiths crumbling. Edgar Cayce warned of a battle between light and darkness within sacred institutions. Mother Shipton prophesied that the saints would tremble and the temples would stand empty. Saint Malachy predicted the end of the papacy. In the end, all 5 prophets converge on a prediction of a crisis of faith, the collapse of established religious institutions, the end of something that has endured for 2 millennia. Do you grasp the implications? It's not merely that these prophets foresaw misfortune. Anyone can predict bad things. What defies statistical probability is their consistent vision of the same calamities, the same type of climate disaster, the same type of global war, the same type of deceptive leader, the same type of celestial event, the same type of religious crisis. What are the odds that 5 individuals, separated by centuries of history, would invent the same overarching narrative? So what do we do with this information? We can disregard it, close this video, continue our lives, and hope that 5 prophets from distant centuries were all either insane, deliberately deceptive, or simply mistaken. It's certainly possible that prophets err. The future isn't rigidly predetermined. Or we can acknowledge that there's something here that warrants our attention. Not panic, not hysteria, but careful consideration. Because if these prophets were even just 10% accurate, if even a small part of their visions materializes, the world as we know it is destined for change. And the central question isn't whether we can prevent these events. It's whether we can prepare ourselves for them. Nostradamus ceased writing prophecies when he felt he had communicated enough. Baba Vanga requested that her predictions not be recorded in her final years, as she had grown weary of witnessing them. Edgar Cayce died exhausted by the weight of his own visions. Mother Shipton was largely forgotten for centuries. Saint Malachy compiled his list and then fell silent. They all understood something that perhaps we should also understand. Knowledge of the future is not a gift. It is a profound burden. Share this video not to instill fear, but to stimulate thought, to encourage questioning, and to prompt attention. Because if the future is malleable, the first crucial step is understanding what it potentially holds. I will see you again soon, if time allows.